Hey everybody, this is Perch. Low energy Perch. I don't know, or whatever. Nobody tunes into the show to hear about my health. It says, "Dear Perch, I'm afraid I'm going to sound like a broken record from what I have said in previous emails, but the recent news that Steve Orlando is doing another Scarlet Witch mini after his last volume ends next month rubs me the wrong way. The Vision and Scarlet Witch mini by him will be the fourth number one issue in his quote unquote run on Scarlet Witch. For those of you counting at home, he had a 10-issue run that got relaunched as Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver, 4-issue mini, then another 10-issue solo, and now he's getting a 5-issue mini. I'm sure that in 5 or so months, it's going to be announced that he is getting another Scarlet Witch relaunch. I think that's a given. I have a bigger question here. Maybe you're going to ask it. So let's just keep going, and then we'll see if you land there. I'm sorry, but if Scarlet Witch isn't selling enough to the point where you have to relaunch it 3 times with the same writer in less than a 2-year span, maybe, just maybe, you shouldn't be putting out a Steve Orlando Scarlet Witch series. No offense to Steve Orlando as a person, of course, but it's the old saying of insanity is that she's doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. Steve Orlando isn't the writer who can pull off a long-running Scarlet Witch title. We live in a world where Poison Ivy can get a 30-plus issue run with a consistent writer. Any character besides Paul can pull off a solo series if they have the right creative team or pitch for it. I don't know about that. Like Batroc the Leaper could be a character with a 50-issue run if done interestingly. Though personally, I think Kraven the Hunter has a lot of untold history at Marvel that would be fun to connect with his decades-long activity before he even first fought Spider-Man. Use a sliding timeline to your advantage. But at what point does Marvel go, maybe we should just let Scarlet Witch run die and not keep trying to make it a thing? Thank you. I think there's a couple things in here. You didn't go where I thought you were going to go. And it's basically, it is basically, why is it that Marvel, because Marvel has said this several times, they've said that Steve Orlando is the definitive Scarlet Witch writer. And Steve Orlando has said this himself, that he really kind of quote unquote owns Scarlet Witch. That if Scarlet Witch, if something is happening with Scarlet Witch, he's the subject matter expert on the Scarlet Witch. And I find that strange. Again, whether you like Steve Orlando's work or don't, he's basically been on this character for, he's like I said, less than 2 years. Or maybe a little bit more than 2 years at this point. The run has been fine, but it's not like there's been anything in that run that has been major character defining for the Scarlet Witch. When I say major character defining, if you're counting home, it's like, this is a really crap thing I'm about to do, but you would have, appeared as part of the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, became an Avenger. Okay. Married Vision. Vision got disassembled, was sad, lost her mind, said no more mutants, disappeared for a while, ultimately came back. I think I just hit the highlights of the Scarlet Witch. Some of you are cringing right now. If you're bigger fans of that character, you're like, oh my God, you left out all the important stuff. Yeah, maybe. And definitely there's some good stories in there. There's, I think that the Kurt Busiek, George Perez run of the Avengers had Scarlet Witch featured quite well, and I think they did some interesting things with her. I guess you could throw in there the little kind of threesome with Wonder Man and kind of how that all went down as part of the story, how the Vision felt about it, etc. Fine. You could do all that. But at the end of the day, the Scarlet Witch, those are the big moments. And you'll notice that nowhere in the listing of the Scarlet Witch's big moments did I include anything from the Steve Orlando run. Now, I bring some of this up because, surfing Reddit, which is a fun thing to do. If you ever just want to have a good laugh and you talk about like definitive comic runs, go check out Reddit, because I'll be damned, those people are insane in what they consider kind of important. And one of the things they considered important was, well, they were talking about Scarlet Witch, and they were by and large listing the same things I did. Gets married, has imaginary children disappear. I guess I left that out. The children aspect I left out. That's absolutely fair. somebody like that common sense guy is going to be like, Perch, you fool. You did not talk about the children. Why not talking about the children? And you're talking about new characters. That's how I picture you sound, man. Anyway, um, yeah, you're right. You're right. The point I was trying to make was a different point, but whatever. Um, anyway, they're going through these major moments, and in the major moments, alongside married, lost her mind, no more mutants, and magical children, was the line item worked with Darcy from the Thor movies, because Steve Orlando had Darcy work with Scarlet Witch, and I'm sorry, if you're counting work with Darcy as a major moment in the character's history, fuck. Like we're in a bad shape as a society, man. That's all I know there. Um, so I say all this because we get this listing of Steve Orlando is a definitive Scarlet Witch writer. How? What has Orlando done to the character that's going to be remembered for 20 years from now? Nothing. Honestly, nothing. And that's not even to say the current run is bad. I don't think I think to me the current run is bland. It is the definition of insanity to have the series, do the Quicksilver bit, have the series again, do the Vision bit, and you're absolutely right. As long as there's a hope that character is going to pop up again in Avengers, Doom World or whatever the new movies are, we're gonna see a Scarlet Witch again for sure. I no doubt about it. She still looks about the same, and rumor is she's not charging an arm and a leg to be in movies, so we'll keep giving her work. But you do look at this, and I think the question you asked is a good one. I think there's two aspects of it. Number one, is Steve Orlando just not popular as a writer? His Marauders run was one of the lower selling X runs during the Krakoa era. And I mean, his Iceman run, okay. Did he do the Iceman run, or is that Steve? I don't remember. I think Steve Orlando did do one of the Iceman runs, or it's very, very similar, by the way, approach. They've tried with Iceman several times. It doesn't take. He's doing the Scarlet Witch run, not a strong seller for Marvel. So at some point you have to say, okay, the Scarlet Witch cannot sustain a title, or Steve Orlando can't sustain a title, or the combination of the two. But another thing I guess I would ask is, look, if you are, if you're committed to the Scarlet Witch, it would mean more to the character, to the run, and to the writer if instead of doing 10 issues, 5 issues, 10 issues, we're on issue 25 now, and then the Vision, introduction was going to bring us to issue 30. I get the little legacy numbering is in there too, but that is too cute for its own good, and nobody has any faith in that at all. I saw a promo for Wolverine, 400 or 4,000 or whatever it was, is coming out soon. It's like an anniversary issue. It's like, yeah, okay, but you've rebooted it several times. You've done a million mini-series. It's like, it doesn't mean anything. Do you count the Laura Kinney Wolverine issues along with the Logan Wolverine issues in terms of the legacy? So are you tying the X-23 issues in as well? What about the time Wolverine showed up in Miss Marvel or the Punisher? Do you count those? Like, I mean, what is even happening? You need a long run so it doesn't look like you're just putting a bunch of little short runs into the mix and hoping for the best, which is how it currently looks. I think to me, and you said it with the Vatrok comment, I think the Scarlet Witch can sustain an ongoing title, but it does need to be an interesting story where stuff is happening. And the reality, a lot of the Scarlet Witch issues were kind of one and done. They were kind of cutesy. They didn't really do anything. And you can't blame Steve Orlando for this, because if he's on the show right now and we were having a conversation like in an interview, I would be saying, why don't you do anything more meaningful in the book? And then if he wasn't worried about never getting Marvel work again, he would say, yeah, editorial won't let me do big things. We do these comics and they basically put me on a short leash of like, well, you get 5 issues, and then, if the sales are there, you'll get another 5 issues. And as a writer trying to plan big long-term things, that's such a crippling handicap. You could still do meaningful things. It's not impossible, but it gets astronomically harder. And the problem with that is you as the fan, as the customer, if you are a comic fan who is into buying monthly and into kind of subscription comics, which a lot of you are, and if you've been raised on a diet of manga all these years, you like episodic serialized storytelling with long running plots and subplots and things that pay off over time. It makes the experience more rewarding. It's why, if you look at wrestling, they don't just roll out like, okay, so next month we're just going to have CM Punk and Roman Reigns and they're for the title. And then the next month it's going to be whoever wins that against Cody. And the next month it's going to be, this new acquisition we just got. And Joe Hendry is going to be there. Who knows? And then, they have storylines that run for a long time. And they do that because that's how you pull viewers, keep them. And that's what this business is. That's what comics is. So when you do these unnatural 5-issue runs, because as an editorial team, you're like, well, I don't know if the sales will be there. By doing these shortened runs like this, you are guaranteeing the sales won't be there. The real definition of insanity isn't giving Steve Orlando another Scarlet Witch book. It's assuming that Steve Orlando in a 5-issue mini can somehow pop everyone's attention and get 80,000 per issue. You've set him up for failure. There's no way he can pull sales like that. There's a lot of comics at Marvel that I think are pretty amazing concepts, or could be, but they're so hamstrung. I mean, look, we talked on this show about Thunderbolts, the Zub Thunderbolts. It was a decent premise. The idea that Luke Cage was going to do something. It was Hawkeye leading a team, and how would it go? Like, there are interesting aspects. There were some new characters there that could become big IP, but Marvel didn't advertise this thing at all. And then they basically cut the legs out from under it by calling it a miniseries and then calling it an ongoing, and then calling it back to being a miniseries. And they basically highlighted that in 5 issues it'd be done. And so readers look at that and go, nothing big's going to happen there. So unless I really love the artist, really love Zub, why would I waste my time with something that's just going to end? And so they don't. And so then the sales are lower. And then when sales are lower, Marvel sits back and goes, "Yeah, see, this doesn't have the sales to warrant a longer comic." And so you see this trap. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. So with Scarlet Witch, we could blame Steve Orlando. We could blame the Scarlet Witch as a character, or we could blame the fact that 10 issues where the writer never really feels free enough to do a long-term storyline with a big setup and involve some big villains and other things that Halftime editorial says they can't use. That was never going to be successful. And so here we are, and you get these comics that are DOA. Right now in Wolverine, you've got Wolverine fighting a mystical adamantium villain, the Adamantine or whatever the hell it is, and Saladin Ahmed's doing that. And as you're reading this comic, you're like, this comic is being written as if it could be canceled at any time. They're setting up a few things, but everything is very, very pensive. Same thing with Phoenix. Same thing with that Avengers. That other series that's going on, the Avengers, like ER, Emergency Response, Avengers. That's not a bad comic. I read a couple of those issues, like, this was pretty good. But still in the writing, it feels like the writer is like, I have no idea if I've got 1 more issue or 30 more issues, so I guess I'll just play it safe. And then the comic is frankly more dull. And that's the problem you have here with the Scarlet Witch. If you're only planning like 2 issues at a time, you're not going to get anywhere. Again, like I said, can you get a great storyline in 2 issues? You can, but your odds are a lot lower. It's like, can you get a supermodel to date you and be your wife at the Waffle House at 3 a.m. in Abilene, Texas? I mean, it's possible. It's certainly possible. You'd have a lot better luck, on Sunset Boulevard in L.A. Probably get somebody a lot more plastic and vapid. But I'm just saying, like, Like anything is possible. But when you do these shortened series, when the writer has no confidence of how long they're going to go, and you just constantly, reboot, cancel, ad nauseum, your odds of getting something good are, forget it. Anyway, thanks for listening.